Well, here there has been an important meeting organized in autumn 2019 at the Gregorian University. That was a historical moment, historical event, because some of the keynote speakers and also manufacturers such as Facebook and Microsoft for the first time addressed this topic. But now we are lagging behind somewhat, and I will be the first to keep to my time limit as a moderator. I would like to leave the floor to Onorevole David Lega, who is the co-chair of the Intergroup on Children's Rights at the European Parliament. Onorevole Lega. Well, actually, you are the ideal speaker for this panel, the ideal panelist, because we've been admiring him for many years, because he had many very interesting sports events, Paralympics, entrepreneur, and now political activity, and I may go on. So certainly he will introduce us into this context. It's important for us to know what the Intergroup is doing. Welcome, and we'll leave you the floor. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much to you and to all the other organizers for putting together such an impressive two-day program, and especially to Professor Caffo for inviting me to this very interesting panel. And as you said, I serve as co-president of the Intergroup on Children's Rights in the European Parliament. And as some of you know, I am a person myself with a disability, but I'm also a legislator, a father, a husband, and also a Jewish person. So I have many identities who define who I am, and I decided to dedicate my political career to give voice to those who have the hardest time being heard, which is children. So I'm thrilled to sit in a panel with such excellent speakers that highlights the importance of interfaith dialogue for the protection of children, online and offline for that matters. I mean, religion plays an essential role in Europe and many parts of the world, and has a vital role in children's education and the way we, parents, raise our children. Faith can give us comfort as well as principle and values to live up to. And we have heard throughout this two-day conference organized by the Italian hotline Telefono Azzurro how the internet has drastically changed social interactions among children, often compressing their rights, making them easy prey for predators online. It has also indeed allowed to keep up with education amidst the disruption generated by the pandemic, but it is undeniable that the situation has gotten out of control and that we as legislators are lagging behind. So it is up to us to provide the electronic services providers with a clear set of rules to be upheld to ensure a healthy experience for children online. During the pandemic, we have witnessed a staggering increase in the number of cases of child sexual abuse and exploitation online. I mean, perpetrators online all over the world have particularly praised all the measures governments enacted around the world to contain the spread of COVID-19 because it meant for them a higher pool of victims to tap into. They have come to great lengths to recruit victims online using all technological tools to operate in the dark and to harm children. So let me be very clear. There is not such a difference between the online and the offline world. What happens online leaves wounds in the real life that are hard to heal. And it is clear to me that what is illegal offline should be illegal online. We cannot allow the internet to become a safe haven for all sorts of criminals. The alleged freedom of the internet at all costs that some of my colleagues in the left like to claim always comes at the expenses of the most vulnerable, such as children. We have to draw a line and ensure that children are protected, that perpetrators are held responsible, brought to justice, and that they pay for their crimes. So as a legislator, I feel extremely privileged to be in a position to make the change needed and provide concrete answers to this endangering reality. And if I may, as a recent father, I cannot fathom the idea that there are people out there who are sexually attracted to children, who have a sexual desire towards kids, including toddlers. And I keep wondering, probably like many of us do, what if it was my child to fall victim of these heinous crimes? What if it was the picture of my daughter, of your son, to end up on the internet and being shared multiple times to feed the appetite of pedophiles? In a matter of seconds, the life of our children can be shattered forever. In a matter of seconds, survivors' lives can be turned upside down without them even realizing it. With a mere click, with a reshare, their image is out there, triggering a countless chain of reshares, posts, and viewings with no control whatsoever from the victim. So when we are confronted with these crimes, we need an urgent and coordinated response. It's a matter of giving children back control of their life and to give them back their agency. It is tragic to look at the total lack of accountability we see in the online world when no one is responsible and where everyone operates in the dark, shielding themselves behind a screen. And the level of impunity in these crimes is a tragedy of its own. And unfortunately, I do believe that we still have a long way to go from here. There is a lot of misinformation about these horrific crimes, many misconceptions, and it is hard to understand the far-reaching impact that this abusive imagery has on children's lives and the degree of pervasiveness on this very abuse. So in the European Union only, we went from 23,000 reports of child sexual abuse online in 2010 to 725,000 reports in 2019. And quite frankly, online should be all that matters, because even if it were to save one child, I will always choose to have a system in place that obliges electronic services providers to use technologies to remove child sexual abuse material and detect all instances of child sexual abuse online. In such a complex and multifaceted environment, I do believe that a joint effort is needed from all actors in our society. And I think that this panel is a great display of what is needed to bring about a real change. And if I may just quickly in the end, once again, I think we see that the role that parents, that legislators and religious leaders have in this ecosystem, legislation alone is not enough, and electronic services providers have to take their share of responsibility. But we know that if we are to really make this change, we need to do it together, and we need to work together to achieve this goal on a global scale as well. So thank you so much again for inviting me, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Honorable Lega, thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, for this impressive data on for 2019, and also for your reporting the need to distinguish, not to distinguish legality of offline and online crimes, and also the appeal and the importance of education on this topic. And because Pope Francis on the 15th of October in 2020 launched and relaunched again on October 5th global educational pact, and that's why I'm asking Monsignor Marcelo Sanchez Sorondo to take the floor. He's Chancellor of the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. And welcome. Monsignor, and it's a pleasure to hear you. You have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador. I am very happy to be part of this important meeting. I may hello to my friends, Ernie and Dana, and the other people here present. And of course, I don't see the others. Sorry, ¿cómo se llama nuestro amigo? No, el de Telefono Azzurro, el italiano. Cafo, I don't see Cafo is here anyway. And I make a special hello to the ambassador, of course, Sebastiani, that is very committed to this really crime against humanity, as say the Pope Francis very clearly. So I think that there are three. First of all, we need to more and more try to make awareness all people about this crime against humanity, as say Pope Francis, and define this, and especially in the embassy. You remember, Ambassador, that I say a conference in your embassy to say just this. So, and we have three crises. The first one is the crisis of education. The people today in the schools not have any education about the moral questions, so they don't know. Also in the first level of education, but also in the university, we don't have any more study about ethics. And the other question is, we don't have more education about family. What is a family? We don't know about what is the central importance of the family in the society, as we say. You know, the church for many years, the gospel, Christ, make the family a sacrament of the grace. So he put the center of the society in this that we say is the cell of the society. If we don't put order in the family, it's clear that we destroy the society in all sense. And education, family. And the other question is religion. Look, the Pope say many times that we have a sort of colonization, ideological colonization, where the pensée unique, as say the French people, the mainstream, don't want to know nothing about transcendence, about God. And in this, we all are Abrahamic, also with the Muslims. So we think that God is God, that God is the center. It's impossible to give an education in the society today without God, without trust in God and his providence in the history. Maybe I come from Oxford, and maybe more questions after my conference, they say, but the direction of the history is against God. And I say, maybe we can have this sensation, but the things can change, like change with the communists in Russia. In 1 year, all was destroyed, and was destroyed not only because the great Pope John Paul II, but also because the population don't want to be constrained against his freedom. So what is the sense of the story? We don't know. We are full of surprises, and God is clear that he's omnipotent and can have an intervention in the history in one way or another way, but to put order and to give dignity of the people, especially of the children that suffer this crime against humanity. I am more and more horrorized because the Pope the other day gave the dates about this. So the Pope said yesterday that was 4 million of euro each year that they gain in only in Italy. So you can imagine what is this in the national order. So it's more and more a great affair. And this is only the question, is money. So if we don't put all the values in the society, God, family, ethics, it's impossible to change things. Thank you.
Grazie Eccellenza per queste riflessioni così importanti che ci ricordano.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for this very important role of the primary self of the social community, i.e. families. And in other words, education and formation should be based also on these aspects. And I would like to make a personal comment because this is confusing, because we sometimes make an effort to educate our children to solidarity, responsibility, more or less. But then we see that we ourselves, as society, privilege and support a predatory, not solidarity-based company, not supportive at all. And therefore, it's an ambiguous message. It can be confusing and confounding for them. And then how the family is important for our communities that undergo great pressure. I was speaking about the certification and our community. We know that globalization has weakened our communities. Countries like Italy and other areas of the continent that underwent a particular stress. And we would like to invite Donna Humaid, who is Humaid, who is the CEO of Interfaith Alliance for Safer Communities. I would like to invite you to take the floor and thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador. Good day to you all. I'm honored to be participating in this panel discussion organized by Telefono Azzurro on the occasion of Safer Internet Day 2022. I have had the privilege of working with people I look up to and happen to share this panel with Professor Cavo, my personal idol, Ernie, Monsieur Sorondo, who have all taught me so much about promoting child dignity online. The Interfaith Alliance for Safer Communities is an organization representing a small group of passionate individuals, building bridges and doing our part in the fight against some of the major social challenges presented in today's global society. We aim to address those various challenges impacting the safety and security of community across the world. We believe that child dignity is in an increasingly digital world is one of the increasingly important crimes that's taking place online and in the real world. We work towards our goals through combination of engagement, knowledge sharing, empowerment of faith leaders, and institutional as well as grassroots level. We need to ask ourselves the question, is faith even relevant in today's world? As we reflect on the turmoil of the past 2 years due to the pandemic, we have turned to our faith leaders and relied on our communities for comfort and guidance. Faith has always played an important role in people's life. Religious traditions and sacred texts provide a moral framework of how people should treat each other. And despite the rapid development advances in our society, the importance and relevance of faith cannot be understated. Faith networks have a wide reach, from small villages to large cities. And although in some countries the traditional role that faith leaders appear to be diminishing, in other countries it's ever stronger. Thus, faith leaders are in a unique position to be a force for positive change through both words and deeds. Children are the most sacred group within our communities, and this is what unifies all religions, as all children are created in the divine image. Faith leaders have a moral responsibility to safeguard children's dignity in both the institutional and grassroots level. At an institutional level, protecting the dignity of children must be part of an ongoing conversation in all faiths. It is incumbent on faith-based organizations to increase awareness amongst their clergy and communal leaders on the importance of child dignity in the physical and digital world. It's critical that faith-based organizations invest in their people and develop their capabilities so that they can play an impactful role in protecting children. At the grassroots level, faith leaders can help spread awareness of online child sexual abuse and exploitation in its different forms. They can also educate their communities on how to identify signs of online child sexual abuse and how to respond to it. Faith leaders can create the necessary sacred places for children to speak up and be heard. By engaging in discussions with their communities, faith leaders can help dispel the taboo and stigma often associated with child sexual abuse, thus encouraging victims and their parents to come forward. Faith leaders can also urge parents to create an open environment at home that allows children to speak openly about incidents of abuse. For child, worse than not speaking out is speaking and not being believed or heard. Reporting what is happening is the first step of healing. Faith leaders can also provide emotional support to the victims and their families, and more importantly, explain to the victims that they are not to blame, to ensure long-term support to the victim. Faith leaders can help the family contact local resources or support groups to provide professional counseling to the victim. They can also take the initiative and acquaint themselves with the latest technology used by children. They need to spend time with young people to understand their virtual lives, since much of online child sexual abuse starts in grooming through games and social media platforms. They can also seek help from local experts and government agencies to not only understand the risks associated, but to also educate children on what they can do to preserve their dignity online. Let me share with you something. In 2018, we interviewed nearly 250 faith leaders from 7 faiths to assess their awareness on online child sexual abuse and exploitation. We found that some of the faith leaders were surveyed would acknowledge the problem of sexual abuse in the traditional meaning, but more than 70% really didn't know what exactly the impact of sexual exploitation of children online and how far can it go. For instance, faith leaders actually said that online sexual exploitation of children is not a sin. Can you believe it? Not a sin, because there is no physical contact. When we saw the results of our surveys, we knew that we had to start from the ground up and target faith leaders with communities to educate them and empower them to act. Our work has shown us that there are 4 key lessons aimed to both faith leaders and those wishing to engage with faith-based organization. Allow me to quickly share them. The first is engagement. Faith leaders need to engage with policymakers and to be a voice of change. Faith leaders can educate them on the challenges being faced by the communities and the actions that can be taken to overcome them. Dialogue between policymakers and faith leaders is much needed to develop solutions that can effectively deliver results to protect children. The second is the need for cross-disciplinary collaboration. The ongoing support and involvement of prominent faith leaders toward digital dignity has been important, but faith leaders cannot fight this battle alone. Leaders of technology, business, government can provide the information and tools for faith leaders to better enhance the support of their work. And in return, faith leaders can provide a moral framework. We all hold a piece of the puzzle, allowing us to ensure the dignity of children. The third is the need to tailored solution. For too long, we have followed the top-down approach of solving our problem. We need to realize that there is no one-size-fits-all solution, as every community is unique. Solutions that are developed at an institutional level or a national level may not translate effectively on the ground, on a grassroots level, due to various socioeconomic and cultural factors. Faith leaders and activists working on the ground have a deeper understanding of their communities. They need to be heard. The fourth and last is the need for communication. As part of our reach with faith communities, one thing that we have noticed is disconnect between the institutional and grassroots level. It is critical that there is a bridge between these 2 levels to ensure that policy and dialogue effectively translate into action on the ground. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this important forum. I look forward to learning with you and from you. Please continue to stand up for the dignity of children around you. Thank you so much.
Grazie per questo intervento.
Thank you so much for all the food for thought that you gave us. And you are reminding us about the importance of a cross-border collaboration amongst different stakeholders, starting from interreligious dialogue, interfaith dialogue, and policymakers. And you invited us to work together, being aware that we cannot do it alone. And this is the leitmotif, the common denominator of the 2 days. That is to say, we have to work jointly in sync with great determination and with a good communication. And we know that in our age, good communication is essential. But I think that days like yesterday in Milan and today in Rome will really contribute very much in this direction. And now the floor goes to Ernie Allen Ober, chair of the board of Child Dignity Alliance. You have the floor, Alan.
Thank you, Ambassador Sebastiani, and thank you for your leadership in convening that remarkable conference with Monsignor Sanchez in 2019. Colonel Donna and I have the honor of serving together on the board of the We Protect Global Alliance, and its vision is to bring together governments, technology companies, private industry, civil society organizations, international organizations. The We Protect Global Alliance just did a global threat assessment, which really mirrors Monsignor Sanchez's concern about the scope of this problem. We worked with The Economist news magazine, which did surveys, interviewed 54,000 young adults, 18 to 20, regarding their online experience as children. What we found was that 54% of them had been sexually harmed during their childhood. The average age of first victimization was 12 years old. So this is a very significant problem that the world has not yet come to grips with. What I wanted to do in my brief comments with you today is to basically revisit a little bit of the history that Ambassador Sebastiani, you mentioned in your opening comments, but it goes back farther than 2019. In 2011, Professor Caffo and I convened a conference in the Italian Senate that brought together a variety of leaders. Our keynote speaker was Monsignor C.J. Scicluna, then the promoter of justice for the Holy See. And in his remarks, Monsignor Scicluna said, "It is a rightful expectation that a child totally dependent on adults for his or her survival shall be treated with dignity." That was 12 years ago. Acting on that mandate, in 2017, we convened a World Congress, Child Dignity in the Digital World, at the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome. And I particularly want to thank the leadership of Father Federico Lombardi and Father Hans Zollner for their work in making that happen. We brought together experts from around the world. The Pope spoke to that event, and we presented Pope Francis with a declaration of Rome that said, in this era of the internet, the world faces unprecedented challenges if it is to preserve the rights and dignity of children and protect them from abuse and exploitation. These challenges require new thinking and approaches, heightened global awareness, and inspired leadership. As a result of that effort, we organized a Child Dignity Alliance led by Professor Caffo. Our core premise was that online child sexual exploitation is a global crisis. And if we're going to bring about lasting change, We must inform, inspire, and mobilize every community at the grassroots level. 84% of the world's population are members of a religious faith. We asked, what better place to start? One of the attendees at that 2017 World Congress was my friend, Colonel Donna Humaid of the United Arab Emirates. Donna said, we will help, and help she did. The result was a powerful interfaith conference in 2018 in Abu Dhabi. And leading up to that meeting, Donna mentioned her survey of religious leaders. She also convened regional workshops in Cairo, Nairobi, Manila, Santo Domingo, and Abu Dhabi, reaching faith communities worldwide. Then in November 2018, leaders of the world's major faiths gathered in Abu Dhabi. And there, in the shadow of the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque, faith leaders signed the Abu Dhabi Declaration, which said, quote, protecting the dignity of children is a cause that will unify and mobilize people across countries, cultures, and faiths. It urged that they unite as faith leaders to prevent harm to children and promote children's physical, social, psychological, and spiritual development. As a result of that Abu Dhabi Declaration and Donna's leadership, the UAE created the Interfaith Alliance for Safer Communities, based in Geneva and led by Colonel Donna. A few months later, Pope Francis became the first pope to visit the Arabian Peninsula, joining the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar in a powerful statement. They said, all practices that violate the dignity and rights of children must be denounced. It is important to be vigilant against the dangers they're exposed to, particularly in the digital world. Later that year, my longtime friend and ally, Monsignor Sanchez, took the next step. He convened and hosted an historic conference at the Pontifical Academy of Science. Participants included faith leaders like Pope Francis, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, the highest holy place in Sunni Islam, Sayyid Ali El-Amin, Shia leader and member of the Muslim Council of Elders. Rabbi, you were represented by Pinchas Goldschmidt, the chief rabbi of Moscow, and Rabbi David Rosen, international director for the American Jewish Committee. Hindu leader, Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, Orthodox Patriarch, Metropolitan Emmanuel of France, and many others. At that meeting, Pope Francis spoke of the tension between the idea of the digital world as a realm of unlimited freedom of expression and communication, and the need for a responsible use of technologies and a recognition of their limits. The Grand Imam said, in the light of the recent developments in technology in the digital world, the future of our children seems unclear and turbulent. He added, the rights of the child represent a sacred goal in the philosophy of Islam. Sri Sri Ravi Shankar said, faith leaders have tremendous influence in society. He called for a global effort to create awareness about child dignity, reinstate the value of respect for life, and work to increase digital well-being among youth. And there was a commitment to do more than just discuss. Pope Francis said, you have rightly chosen as the theme of this meeting from concept to action. He said, it is not enough to understand. We must act. And we adopted at that meeting an action agenda, which can serve as a platform for this meeting and interfaith leadership going forward. It included raising public awareness, making prevention a top priority, undertaking new social research, fostering collaboration with tech companies, increasing child rescue and treatment, and promoting better laws. But it also included a call to mobilize the world's great religions to launch a global movement to protect children online. This is a human rights issue, and I believe it is time for us to bring together all faiths and truly to act. I want to add My special thanks to Member of Parliament David Lega, who was such a courageous and historic leader in the recent battle in Europe and has championed the cause of protecting children and balancing against legitimate concerns about protecting privacy rights. I think it's time to act. I think this forum and today is a great opportunity to move forward together.
Le siamo molto grati per questo quadro.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being so accurate in your presentation, in your contribution. This certainly supports us. It shows that we are part of a common path that started a long time ago. And thank you for having supported your authoritativeness and the extraordinary role that religious leaders may and must play on this ground. We are in Rome, and this will be the conclusive remarks or the conclusive presentation after the 2 days. Of course, we couldn't but have the message from Rabbi Riccardo di Segni, who is the chief rabbi of Jewish community of Rome, which is one of the ancient in the world, if not the ancient in the world, the most ancient in the world. And we are looking forward to hearing him, to hearing his comments and his remarks. Thank you so much. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for this kind invitation, to take part in this important conference. Probably I run the risk of being banal, because if there is a topic that must be of interest to religious people, well, this is the topic for at least 3 main reasons. Because religions teach the right behavior to take, and anything that may stem from the use of these systems, of course, will deviate your behavior. And religions are very important to educate, and these are phenomena that goes against education. And religions are protective systems, protecting vulnerable people. And here we're speaking of a particularly vulnerable category. And here we have to do our best in order to lower their exposure to risks. So this, there are always such risks looming ahead, but when using the internet, there are specific risks. There is a controversial issue and a large debate whether the use of the internet is legitimate. And one of the examples that is made is the knife. A knife is a very useful tool for any human activity. We all have knives in the kitchen, but kitchens are also dangerous. And the first thing that we have to do is to keep them away, to keep children away from knives. The specific risk that comes from these systems comes from the fact that can be easily seduced, attracted, because new generation, young generation find these systems, these tools, a natural way of expressing themselves. And these tools, of course, have a ability to involve people. And the other point is interactivity, because it's not only the possibility to, I mean, not everything about the internet is negative. Of course, there might be negative messages, but through the internet, the problem is that these people may be attracted, may be involved by others, and being involved in interactive processes in social media, which may entail new risks and very fatal risks. So far, we have spoken of commitment, and but the problem is, yes, our commitment, but we have to look for a solution. I can tell you very briefly about religious debate that is currently ongoing in the state of Israel. There are some brackets of population that Orthodox that have been using cell phones, which are referred to as kosher. That is abiding by the rules. And these are smartphones that have some limited features. They can make phone calls, but they cannot surf on the web. So those who have such a smartphone is not exposed to those risks. What is the problem now? There are providers providing numbers with specific prefix, and a person who has a certain telephone number is known to use that cell phone, and when they're using that cell phone, they're not exposed to specific risk. But now the government is trying to liberalize a number of cell phones. So someone who has a certain telephone number may have access to providers that are offering all possible market opportunities. So the debate is about a religious group that is controlling its members, saying that, okay, if you have that telephone number, you are guaranteed. But if you have a broader access, I cannot have control over you. I'm not in favor of a kosher smartphone. I think that we ourselves should have self-control. It should not be something controlled by the institution or by the government. But it's interesting to see that it may be useful or maybe completely useless, or I don't know, we can think of smartphones or cell phones where there is no access to the internet. Obviously, I'm in favor of education, and I would like to close here by quoting our daily prayer, which quotes the words of chapter 6 of Deuteronomy. And it's insisting on the fact that in order to solve the problems, it's the educational commitment of parents is important. So you will hand over these words to your children when you are at home, when you are in the street, when you go to bed, when you wake up, all the time. Control, education is a continuous process that we cannot make away with. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi, Chief Rabbi di Segni. Thank you for this conclusion. Thank you for closing this panel with your words, and certainly many points were raised during the panel, and I would like to go back to what you had just said. So the importance of education, which was a leitmotif in many of the panelists' presentations. Well, I think we are absolutely on time. We finished on time, and therefore I would like to leave the floor to Honorable Corazza and to the President of Telefono Azzurro. And thank you very much again for involving me and for allowing me to participate. Good morning to all those that are following across the ocean. Would like to thank all those that over the past 2 days